Okay. Hi, everyone. Welcome to today's class. I'm Isaiah Adeleke, product design mentor. I was one that took introduction to design. That was on Monday. And today would be looking at design thinking. I'm really, I'm really excited about this topic today because it would be so much talking about, it's more like building on
Hi
introduction
everyone,
to design.
welcome to today's class.
Okay, so it will be so much more on, building on introduction to design. I would see how design really much applies to other, phases of building, of development, of innovation, beyond, product design, like just digital design on all. Okay, so let's get right into it. Come in. Yeah. All right. So this is what we're going to cover for this class. We'll be covering, what is design thinking, like the purpose of design thinking. So we should make use of design thinking process, and the principles of design thinking, the design thinking framework or process, applying design thinking to solve problems and how to approach the tasks. That's the one you are given. So now what is design thinking? So design thinking is an iterative process where you decide to understand your users, clarify assumptions, redefine problems, and create solutions that you can test with those users. So there are like keywords that stand out here in design thinking is an iterative process, iterative process in the sense that it's a loop. It's an endless process. You keep changing and changing and changing. You go forward, you go backward, you go forward. So that's basically what design thinking is. And design thinking is used to solve very complex problems, just any kind of problem, any kind of problem, you might be facing, even in your personal self, you just want to, understand the problem first. You have some assumptions you want to test. You definitely want to test them with those users. Then you want to be sure of what exactly is the problem, and then you find a solution to the problem. So design thinking is a very, very interesting topic in design, and beyond even design, it's a very, very interesting topic in the world. Design thinking has been in the existence since, 1900, 1960, those times. So what is the purpose of design thinking? So design thinking, helps problem solvers to create solutions with users in view. Many times in life we get to encounter problems. I mean, what's life without problem? So, but then when you're solving problem for a different set of people, or even for yourself, for example, you are thinking of those people while creating solution for them. You are not thinking of how it should be. You're not thinking of how you feel it should work for them. You are essentially making sure that it works for them. So that's what design thinking helps you to do. So when you're solving problem design thinking, you're creating solutions that work exactly for your user, and also you are creating solutions that are feasible. I mean, there are those times where we're quite young, we have those kind of what we call crazy ideas, like, why can't I just sit on my bed and something will pick me up, something will just bait me and stuff like, I mean, it might be a problem. I mean, let me give an instance of that problem. Someone who is maybe paralyzed or suffering from paralysis, we definitely need something like that, but then when designing for the person, aside what will work for the person, you need to design something that is technically, feasible, something that can work, something that can be built, with current technology, level that we are in the world. So, so that's another thing design thinking will help you to do, making sure that the solutions are technically feasible. Another is making sure they are economically viable. If you're working with a company, for example, design thinking is going to make sure, that the company or you yourself, you can fund the solution. So it's helping you to make sure that it's a solution that will be, economically viable, like possible. You are capable of, making it work, and then it's like it's not too costly to effect or not too costly to build. So that's another thing design thinking is like going to really, really make sure of. So another thing is it helps you to ask the right questions. That's when you are solving the problem now. Many a times when you don't know something, you want to solve for a set of users. You want to solve problem for people. You want to ask them, how are you? Just like when you visit an hospital, when you sick, you ill, you visit an hospital and the doctor asks you certain questions to know what exactly is the problem. How are you feeling? When did it start happening? And stuff like that. Design thinking help you ask the right question when you are building a product, or when you are like designing a product. In your case, for example, another is design thinking is a continuous problem solving approach, so it's always solution generative. So basically, design thinking is just, it's like I said initially while defining design thinking, it's an iterative process. Like, it doesn't end. So even after we have version, that's why you see products after the launch, you see version 1, then there's version 2, there's version 3, because the product is not perfect. The product is not finally done. We just have it initially done. Then we have second stage of it being done. Then we have the next stage of it being done. So basically, that's what design thinking will help you, because it's an iterative process. So even when you have something you have tested at work, it will get to a time, maybe it works. Maybe you, for example, your target market, you're looking at, 1,000 persons. And the moment your target or your users now increase to 10,000, what you have initially created, the solution I've initially created, might not work for them. Let me give an example. You are serving, maybe you are serving in a restaurant, you own a restaurant, for example, and then you employ people, maybe to serve, one after the other, or to clean the place, for example. So and maybe your initial capacity is you can only take 1,000 guests or 500 guests. So the moment your business begins to grow, and now you are taking 5,000, 10,000 guests, you are taking on company, company maybe retreat or whatever in your space, for example, you can't, you have to increase how do I put it? You have to increase the way you solve that problem. You have to increase your manpower, for example. So you just have to find better ways or better solutions, faster and efficient solutions, to make sure that you are reaching or you are meeting your customers' needs. So that's what basically design thinking is. It doesn't stop once. It is not like an initial, it's not a final solution. So it allows you to keep coming up with solutions, version 1, version 2, version 3, and all like that. So who are those that should make use of the design thinking process? So yes, design thinking is not only for designers. You can look at the use cases I've been using since we started. I've not even said anything about design. It's not even about digital product, and I've not said anything about design. So design thinking is not only for designers at all. Everybody should make use of design thinking, and as long as you're a problem solver, as long as you are an innovator, you're a creator, you're a creative, you're an entrepreneur, you're scientist, whatever, including designers also. It's our process. Design thinking is our process, basically. But all these people are adopting it. So because the goal of design thinking is to make sure that you are solving for the user exactly. First, you are solving for the user exactly. The second is that you are solving, or you are creating a solution that is technically feasible, like something that can be built, a solution that can work. And the third is a solution that you have the financial capability, to take on or to control. So every solution provider should make use of the design thinking process, whatever level you are. You can even start applying it to your, personal life, and all like that. So the principles of design thinking. So basically, I just broke down into 5. I don't know, there are some things in between, but this is like a quick sum. So user centricity and empathy, like very, very important. What user centricity and empathy is just basically all I've been saying from beginning. User centricity, making sure that it works for the user. That's like one of the bedrock of design thinking. Design thinking is to help us make sure we are building for the right people. Because what's the point of building a solution and I'm like, this thing doesn't work for me? I can't use it. So it doesn't make any sense if you are building something and the people you are building it for are saying they cannot use it. So that's what design thinking does. Design thinking makes sure you are solving exactly for the people that have the problem. The second bedrock of design thinking, basic like principles, is collaboration. Like you can see in the image on the right, you see different people designers, product managers. I mean, not only in digital products, I mean, even stakeholders, CEOs, other entrepreneurs coming together, brainstorming, putting things together, collaboration, helping you to opening like the group, or opening your problem to more solutions, or to more workable, viable solutions. The third is ideation, coming up with crazy random ideas that could work. And the fourth is experimentation and iteration. Like I've been saying, you then get those ideas that you have created, and you take it to those users. What's up? Try this out. Try and use it. Does it work for you? Does it make sense? What do you think about it? Learn from them, make feedback, and change. A bias towards action. Another thing is another thing with design, what design thinking really helps is that it makes sure that you are not doing what you feel. As designers, specifically, now let me address designer. As designers, many times we have what we think should work. We have what we think makes sense in the real sense, and they might actually make sense a bit, but then what design thinking makes sure is that you're not doing what makes sense. You're doing what would work. You're basically doing, you're working towards, the actions you're taking is towards what would eventually work. So that's like what design thinking really, really, really make sure of. So you're not just doing what you feel or what you think or what you assume. It erases assumption and every other thing, making sure that you're doing the exact thing, that would work. So the design thinking process, yeah. Okay, so the first is the empathize. Like I said, when I was talking about the principles. So really, really what empathizing is, aside what I've, written here, what empathizing really is getting into the head of your user. Like, share me how are you facing this problem? Just, talking to your users, understanding what is the pain that they are going through. That's what empathizing is. And is the first stage and really the bedrock of design thinking, because empathizing helps you understand your users, the people you are solving for. So it is helping you to get into the head of your users, through different means, surveys, writing out surveys. You'll be doing so much of it in user research, doing a lot of design thinking, approach, empathizing, trying to get insight from users, writing surveys, creating surveys, sending it out, conducting user interviews, talking to users, understanding their problem, their pain point, their challenges, what they are facing. Basically you want to get into the shoes of the users and feel that pain. So I think people who are quite emotional will be able to relate well with this. So that's it. You want to get into the heads of users, and that's like the first thing in design thinking. The next thing is to define. You're always giving, there's a problem you want to solve, a general problem, like I like to call it. So defining helps you to streamline it to a specific problem. You can't solve all the problem in the world. You can't solve all the problem with banking. You can't solve all the problem with fintech. You can't solve all the problem in e-commerce. You can't solve all the problem with anything. You can't just solve all the problem in an industry, in a domain. So what define helps you to do, it helps you to streamline the problem. So basically you gather all your findings, everything that you got from while talking to the user, while trying to understand the user, while trying to get into the shoes of the user. You basically gather everything, and then you define the problem. Like, okay, you now be clear that this is the problem. This is exactly what we want to solve. So you basically have a clear problem statement, and the problem statement is what you would always refer to as you're coming up with solution, because it's what's going to help your ideation process in the real sense. Okay, so that's for define. We'll still do a little bit touch on this soon. Ideate is the third stage, of design thinking process. So what ideate really does is that, what you do in ideation is to come up with possible solutions, or solutions, if I'll call it direct, come up with solutions to what would solve that problem you have defined. Any solution as crazy as possible. You don't limit yourself in ideation. Really, you're not looking at what would work now. You're not looking at what is technically feasible. Neither are you looking at what is economically feasible, at this point in ideation. You're just coming up with anything that could work. You don't want to box yourself at this point. That's really the center, You don't want to box yourself at this point of ideation. You don't want to box yourself. So making sure that you understand the problem and then you're coming up with ideas, possible solutions. So that's what ideation is, in the design thinking process. So the fourth is to prototype. So prototyping is basically just like a scaled down version, like it's written there, like a simple model of how it should work, very, very easily understandable, very simple model of how it should work. Well, it has really gone well for us, as designers, product designers. We're able to do prototype on Figma, even on with wireframes and all. And there are also other platforms you can use for prototyping, and even high level like iFi. That's just high level prototyping. But then prototyping is a workable, should I say, a workable solution, something that works now, that we can test, that looks like exactly what we want to build. That's what prototyping is. Then the last phase is to test with your users. Yes, you have to test. They will test those things that are quite. They will test those things that are quite workable, something that solves the problem, like almost immediately, direct to the problem, directly approaching the problem. That's why design thinking is like one very, 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 process that everybody wants to make use of, because it is very cost effective. I mean, imagine, just look at the picture on the right. You are testing with a user, just with paper illustrations and drawing. I mean, you've not built anything, no code, you've not even gotten to Figma at all. I mean, it's saving you tons and tons of time, making sure that you build exactly what the user wants. So yeah, that's really the bedrock of design thinking. Okay, so now we'll be moving to applying design thinking to solve problems. Basically, what we want to do here is we're going to pick a problem. I've already generated most of those processes, but then I'll be explaining more, empathizing, defining, and then ideation, prototyping, and testing. I'll be explaining more, more actionable, basically. So now this is the problem we are going to be working on. So the problem is that employees do not always stay long at a certain company, and employees do not always stay long at a certain company, and the management is concerned and wants to solve this problem as it affects their yearly efficiency, like their input and output and all. So this is the problem we want to solve, and then we'll be looking at design thinking and how design. You can see that this is not a digital product. It might lead us to build a digital product, maybe, and may not, but we are not even thinking of, we are not thinking of how it should be. We're not thinking of building a web app. We're not thinking of building anything, basically. What we are just looking at is to make sure that we are solving this problem. We want employees to stay long at XYZ company, and we want to apply design thinking to make sure that this works. So let's go. So this step one, design thinking, empathize. So during empathizing, you have the what, why, and how question. So the what is, during the empathize stage, you engage with and observe your target audience. So during empathizing, engaging. So basically what we want to do is we want to engage, you want to observe, you want to talk to your target audience, you want to do something. So that's what we want to do in empathizing. That's what we do in empathizing, basically. So why do we do this? The aim of this step is to paint a clear picture of who your end users are, what challenges they face, what needs and expectation must be met. For example, when you're building, you want to create a solution, for example, you want to make sure that you are talking to the right people. Like, these are the people that are facing this problem. People are like, this problem, giving so much explanation. There's a way you talk to someone and that really, 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 like, this is a problem that's an headache, for the person. So that's why we empathize, really. And the way we empathize is, we conduct surveys, interviews, and observation sessions. You cannot observe when for our own problem domain, for example, you can just observe, when an employee comes in, was it that the energy is high? Maybe then some months into the company, the energy gets low, the work efficient and all, and then the person is not enjoying his work, So basically, so you want, the reason why we empathize is so that we can observe and engage target audience. That's what we want to do, basically. The reason why is so that we can get a clear picture of who the users are. And the way we do it is by conducting surveys, interviews, and observation sessions. All of this would be, covered as we go on, in this training. I mean, in terms of empathizing, that's when you get to user research. So then in our case for empathizing, so we'll ask each employee to complete an anonymous survey, then hold user interviews with as many employees as possible to find out how they feel about retention within the company. Quite plain, quite simple. We send out the survey form and we hold interviews with user interviews with employees that want us to interview them. That's how we would empathize, with the problem that we have. That's the problem that, XYZ company has, meaning that, and the problem is that employees are not staying, at the company. So the step 2 for design thinking is to define, right? I've explained defining. So what we exactly want to do here is based on what we've learned from the empathizing stage. So the next step is to define a clear problem statement. We want to have a problem statement and say, this is the problem. We have a general problem, like the problem basically is that employees are not staying at the company, but this does not define the problem for us, would understand. So why we do this is so that the problem statement set out specific challenge you will address. It will guide the entire design process from here. That's the reason why we do it, because you will be able to streamline your solution, your thinking to the problem. When you are coming up with solution, you're addressing the problem, you're looking at the problem, you're coming up with solution, but the initial problem we're given is very, very wide. So how do we do this? So when framing problem statement, you focus on the user's needs rather than those of the business. You're not looking at the business, you're not looking at you're just focusing on the user. What is the problem for the user? That's just all you're focusing on, and then basically it's going to help to guide it's going to guide your design process. Like when you're in ideation, the problem statement, like I said initially, is going to guide you on how to come up with right solutions, workable solutions. So let's look at our case, for example. Now, this is the problem. My employees need to be able to maintain a healthy lifestyle. You can see that the problem is now defined. There are many reasons why people don't stay, but now we have come to XYZ company, and in XYZ company, the reason why people are not staying is because they are not able to maintain healthy lifestyle while working in the office, So, for example, now that is like so much more users saying that I need to keep my employees healthy and happy in order to boost retention. So looking at this later one, I need to keep my employees healthy and happy in order to boost retention. Looks like a statement from what you feel or what you think. The reason why my employees are not staying is because they don't feel healthy and they're not happy, while doing the work. But now, when we went through our process, we're able to define that, okay, my employees need to be able to maintain a healthy lifestyle, while working in the office. Like the problem statement is very clear. So when you meet someone, you say, okay, we're having a challenge now, and the challenge in our company is that our employees are not staying. They are living in 3, 6 months, 1 year. They are not staying long, and I've discovered that the problem is because they want to maintain a healthy lifestyle, while they are working. You're talking to your own set of employees. This is the problem with XYZ company. So defining helps you to hit the problem at a particular point. So that's what it does. This step 3, on the design thinking process, ideate. So what we want to do here is with a clear problem statement that we already have. Now, the aim is to come up with as many ideas and potential solutions as possible. Look at the word, potential ideas and potential solutions as possible. You're not boxed here. Come up with 100 solutions, as much as you can, And the reason why we do this is, it helps you to, think outside the box, explore new angles, and then, just focus on quantity of ideas, like I told you, as many ideas as possible. Let it keep flowing. In this stage, you want to bring everybody on the team together, and just come up with, different ideas. So during these ideation sessions, you use different range of ideation techniques. We have body storming, we have reverse thinking, we have what's possible idea, we have nice to haves, we have many, 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 many more. So different ways, of coming up with ideas, trying different methods, of coming up. The goal here is to make sure that we come up with as many ideas as possible. And then in our own case, the problem is that at XYZ companies, the employees want to feel healthy and happy, while working, and this is just something I came up with. Maybe organize free yoga classes, gyms in the workspace, in the workplace, free healthy lunch for employees, investments like future planning for each employee. Just basically things that make employees happy and feel healthy, much more, but I just limited it to this. But this is what ideation is like, I mean, you'll be thinking like, gym in the workplace, how do you start getting gym and, all of that. So I'm not looking at the feasibility of getting gym in the workplace. I'm not even looking at whether we have a space for gym in the workplace. I just put it down that gymming in the workplace might help, employees to be more healthy, while working. Okay, so step 4 of the design thinking process, the reason why we prototype, is to narrow down our ideas to a selected few, the ones that would exactly solve the problem. When you are doing user research, you would have some things called prioritization that will help you, arrange your ideas and pick the ones that you want to work or you want to move forward with, but when you get there. So basically what prototyping is, we'll work with those small ideas that are solving the problem on a high-end level, and the reason why we do that is, so prototyping stage, it gives you something tangible that can be tested with users. So we have different forms of testing, how you want to do prototyping testing. Like I show you the other one, it was a mobile app, that was drawn on paper and, just pressing paper. You can imagine, quite for us, we can use Figma to do prototyping. That's for digital products, but for other physical, let's look at our own case, for example. So in our own case now, looking at yoga as, like maybe that one solution that's like, is going to make, employees feel very happy and healthy, solving the two problem side and all. So we set up a dedicated yoga room in the office, very small space, not small, but like just find a space. We are not building a full-blown yoga, blah, 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 and not getting an instructor, maybe for now, so we just set up a yoga room in the office, complete with mats, water bottles, and hand towels. So that's like prototyping. We just tell employees to, before we go on and build, a full-blown yoga space or yoga room, we are testing with a small room that's in the office. We might even evacuate some things from an existing room to create that space. You see how we are solving problems for the user. That's what prototyping is. And that's what prototyping streamlines all the ideation into selected few, and put it into action where users can test it or can work with it. So step 5, testing. So the reason why we do testing is to know whether our prototype works well, and then if we can change things. Testing is prototyping and testing are like very important, because we are saving cost, we are saving time, we are building exacting for the user, makes so much sense, to be sincere. So how we do, run user testing session, you just observe users, different methods. Now, design thinking, you see that this design thinking that I'm talking about, I'm not limiting it to digital products. I'm not limiting it to anything. I'm just, covering a wide range of problem. Design thinking is used to solve, wicked problems, very terrible, hard, difficult problems to solve. It has been used to solve very difficult problems in different spaces. So basically what testing is, testing is basically helping you to get feedback from your user in whatever way, if what you have done, your prototyping, works for the user. So in our own case now, so we tested the yoga idea for 2 months, for example, to see how employees respond. So you find out that people enjoy the yoga classes. That's quite positive. But they are put off by the fact that the yoga classes are in the middle of the day, and then there's nowhere to shower to go and continue working. So based on this feedback, we moved yoga classes to the evening. So you see how we are able to. So by the time we are building the full-blown yoga room, it will make sure that it is for evening classes. You see how we are saving, because people will decide not to go for yoga when they know that they get sweaty, when it happens in the media, and then they can't go back to work comfortably and all of that. So you see how design thinking helped us to solve the problem of, employee retention at XYZ company. So, so a quick recap. So basically, you want to take a deep breath now. I think I'm the one that should take a deep breath. So a quick recap, is design thinking is an iterative process. Never forget. So where you decide to understand your users, clarify assumptions, redefine problems, and create solutions you can test with your users. It's an iterative process. So you can see, for example, after we got to the end and we discovered that yoga classes doesn't work for midday, we are going to make changes. We are going back to ideation and clearing out the idea of yoga classes, making sure that we assign that it is for evenings. So it is an iterative process. Empathize, define, ideate, prototype, test.